Hello and welcome back to Freedom from Fire. I'm your host, PFD Communications Director, Rachel Cunningham. I'm new to Philadelphia, but I've quickly learned how many amazing people make up this busy department and how important clear and concise information is to the community as a whole. Here at Freedom from Fire, we aim to improve your quality of life by giving you fire, first aid, and other life-saving information. I'm honored to be here, so let's dive in with some of our first responders. Today, we're joined by three amazing people from our Fire Communications Center: Chief Dispatcher Angel Rodriguez, Supervisor Solomon Masella, and Supervisor Shakima James. Welcome.
Thank you.
To start, we're going to meet each of our guests for today, and I'll go through one by one with each of you. Chief Angel Rodriguez, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been with the department, and what it means to be Chief Dispatcher.
My name is Angel Rodriguez. I'm the Chief Dispatcher at Fire Communications Center. I've been with the department for 24 years. I started as a trainee, went up to dispatcher, dispatch supervisor, training supervisor, and then in 2019, I was promoted to Chief Dispatcher. My work is at the managerial level, overseeing the operations of the Fire Department's Communications Center. Directing, the dispatchers and the handling of phone calls and dispatching through, the assistant chief dispatcher and the floor and staff supervisors.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Solomon, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Solomon Masella. I've been with the Philadelphia Fire Department for about 10 years now. And I was promoted to supervisor in 2008. Currently, I primarily do quality assurance, so I ensure that we audit all the 911 calls to ensure that the level of service that we're giving to the public is appropriate, and to make sure that our dispatchers are following the protocols and the regulations when it comes to our EMS medical interrogation software, and making sure that those calls are done correctly. And if they're not, making sure that I'm speaking to those dispatchers, guiding them, coaching them on the proper way to do it.
Excellent. Thank you, Solomon. And Ms. Shakima, Supervisor Shakima James, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role.
My name is Shakima James. I'm a native Philadelphian, South Philadelphia to be exact. I've been with the department about 19 and a half years. I started off as a dispatcher trainee as well to a dispatcher, and I'm a floor supervisor. So I oversee approximately 9 to 12 dispatchers during my shifts, and I assist them with call taking, dispatching, notifications to the department when needed, and any other support needed as far as staff and everything that needs to be done.
Excellent. Thank you all. So combined, y'all have a lot of experience. So we're going to jump in with an overview first of all, and we'll start with you, Chief Rodriguez. Can you tell us about the volume of calls that our Fire Communications Center receives?
So we handle emergency calls, 911 calls, non-emergency calls, and also administrative lines. Total calls that we handle a year is 533,000, over 533,000, which gives us about a daily average of about 1461. 911 calls alone is about 371,161, which averages about 1,017 calls a day. And then the non-emergency lines, 162,281, which averages about 445 calls a day. So we handle all of them. And, who are call takers. I mean, it's a pretty busy day.
It's a lot. Shakima, can you tell us about some of the kinds of calls that y'all receive?
We get calls from anything as small as a rubbish fire to someone having a heart attack, code blues, overdoses, building fires, general public calls for assistance with information, as far as even having to transfer people to different departments within the city as well. Some stuff that should be 311 related, but we also get those calls as well.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a minute, because I know that it's important to get the message out about when to call 911. Solomon, do you have anything to add about the kinds of calls you take or the things y'all deal with?
Yeah, we take, just as Kima said, we take a lot of different calls. We get multi-structure fires, but the fire department also responds to not only medical jobs or when something's on fire, we also respond to building collapses, water rescues. There's a lot of different incidents that we respond to that maybe someone wouldn't naturally think to know that the fire department responds to. So there's quite a lot of emergencies that we can intervene in and help save lives.
Excellent. Moving on, I wanted to mention we just wrapped up National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. It was April 9th through 15th, celebrated across the country to bring some extra attention to our first responders, as y'all are known, our first line of contact in an emergency. So as part of that celebration, I know some of y'all received awards. And Chief Rodriguez, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the awards that were given and who was recognized.
Yeah, so this year we recognized 6 people, 6 dispatchers, 2 for Distinguished Service Awards, which prior to COVID we gave out annually. This is the first time we've given out these awards since then. And we gave out 4 awards for outstanding service for going above and beyond the call of duty during COVID, since we weren't able to give out any awards. So we gave one to dispatcher Jamie Long. She's a dispatcher for about 20 years, to recognize her overall body of work. She is an excellent dispatcher, a really good call taker, very consistent. She's very calm and compassionate with the callers, gives good customer service. Her teamwork on her platoon, she's great at training new dispatchers coming on board. She's handled a lot of fires for us, throughout the year. Not to name one specific, but just her overall body work has been excellent last year. So we wanted to recognize her for that. Another person we gave to the Distinguished Service Award was Solomon himself. For congratulations again for his body of work throughout the past year. Solomon, not only is he just dedicated to the room and to the dispatchers itself, but this past year he was asked to step into a role that's just not his. He was asked to step into the assistant chief dispatch role and jump into projects mid-project, right in the middle of them. And when he did that, he jumped in, he hit the ground running, he got himself very familiar, and he's very detail-oriented. So we wanted to recognize him for the work that he put in there in the past year. And we give out 4 outstanding service awards for going above and beyond. One was to Shikimi James, and another one was to floor supervisor Takesha Taylor. And both of them wanted to recognize them for their work. They, during COVID, we were very short, just like everywhere else in the country. We were very short. We had a lot of trouble hiring dispatchers. We had a lot of trouble getting people in for interviews. So we were running almost very close to skeleton type of. And Shakima and Supervisor Takesha Taylor, they're both day work floor supervisors. So, they were very instrumental in keeping the room together, making sure that we had enough staff each shift. They were working 16, 18 hours. They were also taking on those hours so that dispatchers that work with them or under their supervision. So they didn't have to be forced to stay, because we do mandatory overtime. And being in the situation that we were in, there was a lot of that going on. So Supervisor James and Supervisor Taylor, they both, they took a brunt of that, and they kept this room kind of in place, put together and moving, staffing wise on the floor. So we wanted to make sure they get recognized for that. And then there was Supervisor Nashia Roper, who she's actually assigned to the quality assurance unit like Solomon, and she does a lot of work in the background during the day. But again, because of staffing shortage, she went ahead and she worked a lot at night. So she was pulling double duty, working 8 hours at night, 8 hours during the day, 8 hours at night, 8 hours during the day, constant. And we have dispatcher Aaron Mott. Aaron Mott, all around a great dispatcher, very knowledgeable, very good. He's been with us for about 5 years, but the way he's moved up and raised his skill level is is great. I can't thank him enough. But him during COVID, he again took on a lot of hours, but he also had a lot of big jobs. He worked during COVID through the staff shortage. He handled
Riots,
the civil unrest. He handled the floods both times in 2020 and 2021, and he took on a lot of the hours that were kind of open because of the shortage. So we want to recognize all of them for the great work that they all did over the last Solomon and Jamie the past year. And again, this doesn't mean that others didn't. They all did great work, but there's only so many works to go around. So everyone did a great job, and I thank everyone for all the hours they put in and everything that they did. But we want to recognize these folks just for these specific.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And just briefly, I wanted to ask Shakima, what does it mean to you to receive this award for what has been a very difficult 3 years for a lot of us?
I truly appreciated it, and it's good to feel recognized and know that your work isn't in vain, because it was very difficult these last 3 years. We all have our own families that we were dealing with as well. I lost 2 people during COVID that were very close to me, so I was dealing with grief as well as trying to come in and work and keep the morale up in the room, because we were all going through things, even getting sick ourselves and having to still come to work. Well, not while we were sick, but, trying to hurry up and get through it so we could come and help other people as well. And, social media didn't help. They felt like, it was a stigma in the cities that, we're not answering calls, which definitely wasn't true. We were answering the calls, but if you got 4 people answering calls and you're getting 10 calls in at the same time, 4 of those calls are going to ring, 6 of those calls are going to ring over until we're able to answer it. We definitely do care about the city. We definitely come in here and work hard every day and try to get through it. And, I don't think that was being put out there enough for people to understand what we were really going through as well. It was hard on everybody.
And Solomon, if you would just briefly share a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, I mean, the award was definitely appreciated. I was actually happy that so many, as Angel said, it's usually something you give to maybe 1 or 2 people a year. I was happy that a lot of my coworkers got recognized, because Kima, Jamie Long, these are dispatchers who really dedicate a lot of their time, and I say when I refer to their time, I say they're sacrificing their life to be here, because the things that you do when you're off of work, you enjoy time with your family and your friends. You got to think that these dispatchers are coming in not only on their shift, but they're working overtime. Or in the case when he mentioned Nashia, she's working 8 hours. She's a mother of 2. So she's working 8 hours during the day, 8 hours on a night. So they are sacrificing their time off that they could be using with their family. So I was really, really happy that they got recognized for that, because I think about that every day, especially when I see articles. Sometimes I've heard of articles in the past where they talk about dispatchers, some certain dispatchers making so much overtime money, or making exceeding a certain. What I hear, even if I was a dispatcher, I would think, well, what are they? That's the time, that's their life they're sacrificing, that they're here, they're working. You're not thinking, how many hours are they working to make that money? It's nice the getting paid, but how much of their time and their life are they sacrificing to be at their job and do their job? And like we always say, every call is life or death. So if that additional person is not here to answer that phone call, how much longer is it taking to get to another person that's calling? Because someone having a small issue versus someone who's stabbed or a gunshot wound, that actually, the time that it takes for you to call 911, speak to a police dispatcher, then get to an EMS dispatcher, every second is valuable. So the less time you're waiting to talk to us for us to send you help and to also give you those instructions, it's definitely important that we have dispatchers that are gung-ho and willing to come into work even more than their regularly scheduled hours and work overtime. So it's definitely appreciated when that's noticed, especially when it's some dispatchers that are so enthusiastic about their job, like Jamie and Shakima.
I think I speak for everyone when I say thank you all. I can't even imagine what it was like We're going to take a quick break real quick and hear actually from some of your teammates. I was able to speak with several dispatchers for National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. So we're going to take a break, hear from them, and we will be right back with more Freedom from Fire.
It takes a lot of patience. You have to have patience because you never know what's on the other end of the line. You can get somebody that stubbed their toe, or you can get a person that got shot. So you never know what's on the other end. I just love customer service and helping people. So I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else.
We're going to ask you questions, but it's just to get information to help you. So, and it's not delaying anything, we're just trying to get information. That's the biggest thing.
Oh, it gets beyond busy. It doesn't matter winter, summer, spring, 7 a.m., 7 p.m. It's nonstop busy. It definitely is just rewarding to know that you did save someone's life, you helped somebody, or you can even just make somebody's day just by being pleasant on the phone. People call here not realizing that we are real people.
I love everyone I work with. It is my second family. It's my home away from home, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Welcome back to Freedom from Fire. I'm your host, Philadelphia Fire Department Communications Director, Rachel Cunningham. Today, we're chatting with some of our first responders, our dispatchers. We've got Chief Dispatcher Angel Rodriguez, Supervisor Shakima James, and Supervisor Solomon Masala. So I want to dig into something Solomon mentioned when we were highlighting our dispatchers for Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Solomon, you shared something with me about some of the most rewarding calls you've received, and I was hoping you would talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So there was a call where I had there's several calls related to maternity that I can pull on. So some of the details that I remember, because it was a couple of years ago, I can't remember all the granular details of the call, but I do remember it was a gentleman that called, and there was a woman that was about to give birth, and he was quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Very, very just, hooting and hollering, and when we have certain questions we have to ask. So and the purpose to those questions that we ask when we're on 911 call is we're using a protocol, an EMS medical interrogation software. So when we get to a certain point, we know, first of all, what to send you and make sure we're sending the right units with the right equipment. But we're also getting to a point where I have to give you instructions because I'm not a doctor, right? I'm not a paramedic. So I need to be told what to say to you to make sure I'm giving you the right instructions for you, the second party, or even if I'm talking directly to a patient. So the answers to the questions that we ask help the software tell us what to say to you. And I remember asking the gentleman questions like, how many weeks pregnant was she? Was she having contractions? How many minutes apart the contractions were? And I think it was around that question, how many minutes apart the contractions were, where he transferred the phone to the caller. And he was of such a nature that I assumed when the mother got on the phone, she'd be screaming. But it goes from someone screaming to hello. And I said, yeah, I'm sorry. Is this the woman giving birth? Yes. And she was just so calm. You would have never thought that she was about to give birth. And I was just like, that told me that, oh man, it's the guys that can't handle this stuff. It was really quite funny. Just that difference in tone almost immediately. And my shock was, I thought maybe he handed the phone call to someone else in the room, but it was the person about to give birth. And when she did give birth and I heard the child cry, and I feel this way all the time when I hear those calls, when the child cry, it's like almost like you feel like it's an honor. Like, wow, I just heard I heard a life open up its mouth and, yell out for the first time. So
brought a tear to my eye a little bit.
Yeah.
It's really sweet.
Because it's the truth. Like nobody's ever heard it except at that time when it first cries out. And you can hear I could hear the gentleman's voice turn to like, oh my goodness, like he was, that proud father feeling that I assume all fathers feel when they hold their baby in their hand for the first time. You could hear it in his voice, the way the tone changed. So it was, and I think about that all the time. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. And Shakima, what are some of your most rewarding moments or instances that you've had as a dispatcher?
Rewarding. Well, I've been a call taker for like 19 years, so I've had some really bad calls and I've had some good calls, but I pride myself on just being able to have common and soothing tactics with people, especially children. I hate those calls when kids call and, you're trying to calm them down, but also give somebody help, because I'm so worried about the child in the situation, because I don't want them to be traumatized by what is actually going on. I've had calls where children have actually woken up and not been able to wake their parents up. Like one of my worst calls was, the two little girls. I think one was about 11 and one was 5. Their mother had an asthma attack in her sleep and never woke up. So it's like a Saturday morning, it's 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and she can't wake her up. But this little girl was so good. I guess she had known her mom to have asthma attacks before, so she knew that this is something that could possibly happen. So she had already had a pump. She's like, she won't take the pump. My heart is breaking because I already know that the lady has passed away, but I'm trying to stay calm with her and get her some type of help and ask her that she has the grandmother or a phone number and get another dispatcher to call the grandmother to get somebody else there for him as well as police, so we can get into the house. But she was so soothing to her 5-year-old to keep the little girl busy and not, get her involved and see what was going on with the mother. And, to be able to pinpoint locations for people that don't know where they are. You would be surprised how many adults don't know their addresses in the city. So to be able to use the map properly, keep people calm, get help to them in a certain amount of time, and know that everything is going to be okay. These children are safe now. Those are the most rewarding things to me. Amazing.
Chief Rodriguez, what about you? What are some of your most rewarding moments working in the FCC?
I've been here for a long time. It's kind of hard to remember, but I've had both calls at Solomon and shaking my head. The one that, it's not even the call that I remember, it's the call after the call that I remember. It was a baby delivery where, it was just a regular 911 call. I know both the parents were young. I remember the voices, they sounded very young. And I went through my protocols and did what I had to do. And, to me, it was just, I helped another person and was on to the next call. Then a few hours later, we get a call, and it's actually the caller, the mom and dad, called back. And they got on the phone. Actually, they talked to my supervisor, Ray Pascucci, and rest in peace. And he gave me the phone, and they decided to give their child my name as the middle name of their child. So it's not nearly like the call, it was that call that kind of I remember most. Selena.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And just to wrap us up here a little bit, I wanted to ask specifically what the public should know about calling 911. And I realize everyone has slightly different answers they might give here. So we'll just kind of run through and ask, what do you want to make sure people know? When should people call 911? When should they not call 911? And Shakima, we'll start with you.
Okay, well, the first thing I want everybody to know is that Philadelphia is a 2-tiered system. So when you call 911 in the city of Philadelphia, you get police dispatchers first, police call takers. If they determine that it's a medical or fire job, then they transfer you to us. You're not ever going to talk to just one person if you're calling for the fire department. So a lot of people think when they get transferred to us, that they're still on the phone with the original call taker, and it just starts off with bad because they feel like, you didn't hear that information already? I gave you the address already. And, we have to verify this information too. So, I know sometimes it's hard to be calm in these type of situations, but, just have a listening ear, and now that you're knowledgeable, knowing that, they're going to transfer you to us, maybe we can start off different sometimes in these calls. And also that, what you see on TV that 911 call takers do is not always what's going on. This is a large city. We have departments for a lot of things, especially animal control and things like that. So if you see a cat in a tree that's not for the firefighters. That's for animal control. Call 311. And just know that we're out here trying our best to help you as much as you need help. We're trying to answer the calls as fast as possible. We're trying to give you the correct amount of help as soon as possible. We want to help you over the call before the fire department gets there. With CPR, with the Heimlich maneuver, with delivering a baby. We're not just taking your address and hanging up on you. We want to help you through it as well. So be patient with us, be kind to us. We're trying to work together here.
Absolutely. Solomon, what would you add about that, about what people should keep in mind if they do have to call 911?
Well, if you do have to call 911, do realize that when we answer the phone, we're the Philadelphia Fire Department. But that doesn't mean we only handle fires. A lot of people say, I didn't want the fire department. Understand that those red and white large ambulances you see running up and down through the city, they have the fire department emblem on them because those medics do work for the Philadelphia Fire Department. So when we start off saying Philadelphia Fire, we don't say Philadelphia EMS Department because we're called the Philadelphia Fire Department, but we do have ambulances that answer. And to the point you said about 911 calls, not that we never want to discourage anyone from calling 911, but we do want you to understand that if you're calling for an emergency, let's say I'm in a car accident, or let's say there's a medical emergency, and I'm in a group of people, and we all many people have been present for emergencies. I'm sure you've been walking down the street and you've seen someone overdosing, or walking down the street and someone is having a heart attack. Understand, if there is 10 of you there all calling 911, then all of you are getting into a queue that reduces that it puts a strain on how long it takes for the next person to call in who may be calling for an emergency from farther away. So there's 10 of you, and let's say the 11th person calling is somewhere blocks away for another emergency. They're waiting till all 10 of you get to a dispatcher. So if we're in a group, if there's a lot of people around, people are calling 911, understand that just one of you have to call 911 to get to us and to get the help going out.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And talking to us is just like, imagine you're text messaging somebody instructions or something you want them to do. You sending it to them and them sending a text back to you, it doesn't stop them from reading the message, correct? So when you're on a 911 call, it's similar. When you're telling us information, we're asking you questions, we're simultaneously entering incidents, entering information. And when I send a job over to the dispatcher, I could still be asking you questions after the job's already been sent over. So there is no delay. We're not stopping service by asking you questions. We're just, like I said, asking you questions to know what instructions to give you and to make sure that we're sending the appropriate response to you.
Absolutely. And we do have to wrap it up here, but just real quick, Chief Rodriguez, is there anything else you want to add briefly?
Just want to tell the public, it's a process. 911 is a process. Our call takers and police call takers, they're professionals. Trust the process, know that they know what they're doing. And, the key things is to make sure they're going to ask you questions. Location. We need the location.
Great.
And send help if they don't have that. And a phone number.
Thank you.
What's going on. So trust the process. They're professionals. They're going to get to.
All right. Well, thank you so much to all of our guests today from our Fire Communications Center. Just keep that in mind if you ever have to call, that there are people behind the phone lines. To learn more about the Philadelphia Fire Department, you can visit phila.gov/fire. And if you'd like to keep up with our show, Freedom from Fire, look for us on Verizon Channel 36, Comcast Channel 56, and LaSalle TV's YouTube page. You can also check out the Fireman Hall Museum at 147 North 2nd Street and meet with our museum curator there, Firefighter Brian Anderson. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching. And remember, fire is everyone's fight, so stay safe.